Gadiane, a BA2 student in Negros Oriental State University, Shaton campus. So my report is about accommodations and curriculum modifications. So let's start. Disabilities are sometimes called disabled or physically changed. This condition is a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movements, senses, or activities. It is hard if you inherit this condition. Sometimes the negative judgment or bullying will be one of your greatest enemy. Some of individuals with disabilities will encounter mental disorders or depression because of having a hard living. However, some of disabled person has overcome this condition through encouragement, believing and accepting their own self. With the help of education, like having an inclusive classroom, it helps and accepts all the individuals with disabilities to an equal learnings. There are two types of way of learnings for the disabled person, the accommodations and modifications. Accommodations. It helps kids learn the same material as their peers and allows them to meet the same expectations. This type of way of learning gives confidence or encouragement to the students with disabilities. It is because even though they are physically challenged, they can still compete or perform the same learnings as the others. Their learning will based on what kind of disabilities they have. Example, a student with dyslexia might listen to an audio version of a book, but it's still the same book that the rest of the class is reading. For them to understand the lessons clearly, a person with dyslexia learns like others through listening audio lessons. Second example, students who has trouble focusing might get seated next or besides the teacher for them to be more accompanied by their teacher and still has to do all the regular class assignment. Next example is a student with trouble in hearing and speaking can still learn like the other children through giving a sign language interpreter for them to study their lesson effectively. Through accommodation, it allows students with disabilities to pursue a regular course of study. So now let's move to modification. Modification helps kids who are far behind to their peers or classmates by changing their kind of learning. Kids who receive modifications are not expected to learn the same materials as their classmates. Through through modifications, students can now learn based on their own cognitive and physical abilities. The lessons are adjusted based on their abilities, which helps the disabled person to learn an easier or appropriate lessons for them. Example, a student will be assigned a shorter or easier reading assignments or homeworks that's different from the rest of the class. It helps the student cover less material than other or material that is less complex. Example, spelling tests may require the class to study 20 words. However, a students with modification will only have to study 10 words. This will help them to learn the lesson easier and more understandable for them to avoid struggles. So that's all for my Unit 4 report. Thank you.